Hello everybody. This is our second class in digital marketing for content providers. Today we're going to go over our tools and our roles and responsibilities. It'll be roles and responsibilities and tools part 1. So as I often say, unless I make an egregious mistake, I'm just going to keep rolling, mistakes and all, and try to make up for any mistakes with some just dazzling material here. So here we go. The class agenda for today, we will be talking about the content provider's role in digital marketing. This will be part 1 of 2. We'll start off with roles and responsibilities. That's an acronym, RACI, R-A-C-I. We will then go into the tools part 1, and we will be talking about content management systems. So roles and responsibility, or RACI. RACI is a methodology to identify roles and responsibilities against tasks within a project. So we will identify who is responsible, who is accountable, who is consulted, and who is informed. RACI maximizes tasks and deliverables with the roles on your website and decision making and responsibilities such that they are correspond to elements listed above. So the responsible party is the task doer, the accountable party is the task owner, the consulted party is the one that assists the doer, and the informed are the ones who stay in the loop. So if we think about a website RACI chart, in this example, we might think that we have 5 groups of people. We have editors, planners, developers, administrators, and stakeholders. We have a list of tasks down this column. And for each task, we have somebody who is responsible, somebody who is accountable, somebody who is consulted, and somebody who is informed. So for example, create, edit, manage content in a content management system. The editors are responsible, they're the doers. The stakeholders are accountable, they're the ones who have to answer to the success of that task. Planners and developers are consulted, and administrators are informed. So we could go down this whole list. Another example I'll just pick out here: ensure translated content meets the needs of the customer in the target language markets. In this case, our stakeholder is accountable, our editor is responsible, our developers and administrators are consulted, and our planners are informed. And so it goes. So let's take a closer look at these roles in a content management system. As I said, we have editors, site planners, developers, administrators, stakeholders, and customers. The editors create, edit, and manage content in the CMS. Among the editors, we have approvers, marketers or user advocates, user-generated content managers, and translation coordinators. The site planner group is responsible or ensures that the content management system delivers content that meets the website's objectives. And in that group, we have content strategists, user experience designers, and information architects. We have a group called developers. The developers install, configure, integrate, and template the CMS to deliver web content consistent with the strategy and objectives of the site. In that group, we have infrastructure support, front-end developers, and back-end developers. And then the administrators are responsible for operations, maintenance, and performance metrics. And in that group, we have CMS administrators, server administrators, and database administrators. And then we have stakeholders. Stakeholders include the entire team responsible for the results the website is intended to deliver, including responsible parties for creating and maintaining the website infrastructure, creating and maintaining the website content, setting the website objectives and goals. It's important to also include website visitors as stakeholders. So the content strategy is a strategically orienting website content to align with business goals and website objectives. Content strategy dimensions include content inventory, brand, style guide, design, content audit, metrics, and continuous improvement. So in the digital marketing universe, we basically have a lot of stuff. But from a tools perspective, there are basically three primary tools in the digital marketing universe. There's the website, there's the marketing automation, and the customer relationship management, or CRM. So the digital marketing lifecycle goes kind of like this. We want to attract, engage, delight, enable, support, and understand. So those are the four pillars. And within those pillars, the activity or the elements would include, under attract, search engine optimization, pay per click, social media, marketing automation. Under delight, we have things that we care about like page load time, bounce rate, conversion rate, user experience, customer experience. Under support, we have support, service, customer satisfaction, user experience, customer experience. And then under understand, we have customer relationship management, analytics, customer journey, and personas. So the website falls under the attract, delight, and support cycles. So the hub of the digital marketing universe is the website. While many elements in the digital marketing are crucial, your website is your public facing, it's your storefront. So there are three basic steps to create the website experience. You need to plan, build, and maintain. Involved in planning, you want to figure out first what's in scope. Are you replacing an existing CMS? And if so, are you doing a lift and shift? Or are you going to reskin or reorganize the CMS? Each of those will cause a different amount of bandwidth consumption or time that it would take, time and energy to do that. Lift and shift just means you take your existing database, you do not do any kind of reorganization or redesign, you simply move it brick by brick to a new content management system. Reskinning means you will change the look and feel, and reorganizing means it's all up for grabs, navigation, search, functionality, all that stuff. Or if you're not replacing a CMS, are you creating a new CMS, or are you doing a complete rebuild? In this section, we will assume that we're doing a new CMS or a complete rebuild. In other words, we're going to cover everything it takes. So before you start, there are three elements that you need to do to plan your website. You need to determine the purpose of the website. I said three, and then there are four there. Okay, so there are four. You need to figure out the purpose of the website. You need to figure out who your intended audience is. You need to do usability planning, and you need to set your website key performance indicators, or KPIs. So when you determine the purpose of the website, you determine your primary purpose and then your secondary purpose. But your secondary purpose will always be a subset of the primary purpose. Examples of the purposes of websites could be to generate leads, to provide service, to educate, to increase brand awareness, to increase domain authority, to engage potential customers, or to persuade hearts and minds. In order to do that, you need to analyze your digital landscape. What's the competition doing on their site? What are the best of the best, the Bobs, that you want to be similar in similar industries doing? Or what can you learn not to do from the worst of the worst, or the wows? You have the Bobs and the wows. What are the trends in your market? Given your visitors' traits, what are some of the inspirational sites? So we could mind map this out, and the research that I'm doing here is, imagine we're a guitar shop and we're hoping to go deeply into e-commerce. What would we do to inform our website? Well, first we would look at competitor sites. So here are some competitor sites to the kind of website that I think we would want to build. We would look at the best of the best in the industry. In this case, we have Fender, Gibson, Rickenbacker. And then we would compare that against our trends in market. So our market trends would be mobile visitors are increasing, brick and mortar stores are closing, social media, blogs, and forums are gaining credibility. And then finally, what are the inspirational sites? They don't necessarily have to be in adjacent industries, but just really good sites that would inspire us. And of course, if we're going to go heavily into e-commerce, we would think about Amazon and eBay. And if we're talking about becoming a musical authority, maybe we would think about rollingstone.com. So you diagram your findings, and then you figure out who is your intended audience. Who are your target visitors? How will they intend what will they intend to get from the site? How will they access the site? Don't plan your site to appeal to the highest paid person in the office. You need to actually go off and do customer research, create user personas, customer journey mapping, conduct market research. So once you have your intended audience figured out, then it's time to figure out your usability requirements. There's an ISO standard 9241-210 that is a good standard for all things that are usability related. And in there, a good quote is that they say that user experience is is defined as a person's perceptions and responses resulting from the use and or anticipated use of a product, system, or service. And you can look at this link here to take a closer look at that statement. So really this, what they're talking about is the phases of user experience. There's a phase before using where visitor anticipates the experience, imagines what it'll be like. This is a subjective user experience. And then there's during use. The visitor measures the experience versus their expectations. This is cognitive user experience. And then finally, there's the evaluation that they do after using it. They evaluate the customer experience. This is reflective UX. And then it's cyclical, so the whole thing would potentially start over. So website usability planning with user-centered design is a very good approach. User-centered design acknowledges the user as the most important element of the design and places the user at the center of the design process. It consists of 6 steps, including user validation at each step. So you would do analysis, prototyping, designing, you would deploy, you would measure, and then you would optimize. Again, with the user always at the center of the validation. So you would analyze, you would have a user validation, and then you would prototype, you would have a user validation, then you would design, have user validation, you would deploy, have a user validation, you would measure your key performance indicators, have a user evaluation, and then you would optimize based on your measurements, and then you would again validate using user validation. Then comes the build step. In building, you have to design first, so your design comes from planning. You assimilate your planning into an executable design where you've determined what the purpose of the website is, the intended audience is, what the intended audience is, and your usability planning. So you would start off with site map diagram. You would consider how you want your navigation to go, what are the major pages, and then what are the secondary pages, and the pages that support all of the main categories. You would then design your SEO strategy. SEO is search engine optimization. You would review your SEO plan. You would determine which search engines your regions and markets need to optimize for. And it's different. In North America, the primary search engine is Google, as it is in Europe and Japan. In Russian, it's Yandex. In China, it's Baidu. And in South Korea, it's Naver. So you need to, and each of them has a slightly different or quite different set of steps that you would go through for optimization. And then you would need to design your backlink strategy. We'll go into more detail when we go into our SEO module, but these are from a high level the things that you need to do in the planning stage. Then you need to develop. So you would then adhere to the implementation process. You would set up your environment, usually 3 tiers: development, staging, and production. You would determine whether you want to do that on-premise or in the cloud as a software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. You would install your CMS software, configure the software, set up your roles and permissions. You would do a partial content migration so that you could test the build as you go. You would do template implementation, back office integrations, workflow implementations. You would need to do training, support. You put your support implementation into place, and you would then complete your content migration. And then you would do, of course, you do testing along the way. But once everything's in place, you would do some very formal quality assurance testing. And then you, of course, need to build your SEO elements, pick your keywords, use structured data markup, generate SEO-friendly content, and build your XML sitemap. And then it comes time to deploy. So when you deploy, you change the DNS to point to the new content management system instance. You set your analytics scripts and pixels, and you do regression testing. You would deploy your SEO strategy, add your site to indexes and directories, implement your backlink strategy, engage in social networking, and engage in video. Again, we'll go over this in more detail when we get to the SEO strategy. And then after you've launched, you'll need to maintain. Maintaining consists of at least 3 elements. These are the primary ones: optimization, measuring, and then repeating. So to optimize, you would optimize your SEO based on the results of the KPIs that you're tracking. You would need to optimize your cache management. Maybe you would need to optimize your content delivery network and the indexing. And of course, you would design your SEO strategy. Well, we already did this step. And like I said, unless I make an egregious mistake, I'm just going to keep going. And then you would need to measure. So measure your actual key performance indicators, performance versus plan. For example, you might measure bounce rate, unique page visits, average time on page, your top visited pages, your top exited pages. Definitely measure your 404s. That would be your pages that are not found. You would need to maybe a KPI could be your page load time, on search queries. These are all good key performance indicators. And then, of course, when you have success, you repeat. Okay, so that was a kind of whirlwind discussion of the website. Let's continue to look at the tools. So in this class, we will use 3 tools. Our website will be on Weebly.com. We'll use marketing automation via HubSpot, and we will do a customer relationship management via HubSpot. Each of these are free. For this class, for Part 1 tools, we're going to focus on the website. So there are many, many, many functions of a website. There's the content, images, and media. You need to create, approve, version, and translate those. Your websites are usually multi-regional, multilingual. There's privacy, regulation, compliance. There's SEO, internal search and retrieval, indexing, revision control, social media integration, cache, content delivery network, brand, format, publication automation, analytics, reporting, security, infrastructure, user accounts, marketing automation integration, and CRM integration. I'm not intending to create an exhaustive list, but rather just to point out that there are many, many, many functions of a content management system. And along with that, there are the main elements of a website: images, media, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So let's take a look at HTML. That's kind of like the building block of our website. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a W3C World Wide Web Consortium open standard used to create web pages, and its elements form the building blocks of all websites. Browsers use HTML as their native file format. HTML 2.0 was passed November 1995. XHTML 1.0, XML Hypertext Markup Language, was passed in January of 2000, and HTML5 just passed a few years ago, 2014. So HTML can be simple. So you could type the following into a text editor, save it as a file name, and then open it in any browser. And it would look, the code would look like this, but the browser view would look like a browser view. Cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheets are W3C open standard. CSS is a style sheet language for assigning presentation characteristics to web pages. There's also a validation service that you can go to make sure that your CSS is valid. So you can have internal CSS or external CSS. Internally, you would use the style element, or externally, you would use the link element. So here's kind of how that works. So if we have internal CSS right here in our HTML file, we have our style element, open tag, close tag, and then we have our cascading style sheet instructions within that style sheet. So if we were to view that in a browser, it makes the styling changes that we prescribed in our cascading style sheet. Similarly, if you want to do an external CSS, which is by far the more prevalent, you would link to a style sheet and you would give the destination or the location of the style sheet, and then once you and so then this is, in this case, we're calling it MySki CSS, and MySki CSS is an external file adjacent to that HTML file that gives some instructions, and it creates the same result. JavaScript. JavaScript is another element on our website, very important on websites. JavaScript is a European Computer Manufacturer Association open standard for programming web pages. It can be internal or external using the script element with the SRC attribute for external. So if it's internal, we have the script element that actually has the function, the JavaScript function, embedded in the file. The file then references the function in the ID that says ski-1. So ski-1 is associated with this button, My Switcher, and what that does then is it displays this text, but then it gives you this button, and when you press the button, the text changes based on the JavaScript instruction. So external JavaScript we have here in the script where we've identified the script is switch.js. It's adjacent to the HTML file. Here's that script. We view it in the browser. We push the button, and the same effect happens as it did with the internal JavaScript. So let's do a quick exercise. You should pause this video and do this exercise yourself, but I'll go through it right now. So basically, what we're saying is that we're going to create a folder on our desktop called DM4CP. So I'm going to do that. New folder, and I'm going to name it DM4CP. Not sure if you heard my dog barking in the background there, but that's okay. He's welcome to be in these videos. So I've created that folder. I'm going to open the folder, and in the folder I'm going to create a text file. On the Windows we would do right-click, New, and just pick the text document. On the Macintosh you would actually have to open up your text editor and do a File, New, and create the text file, either using Content Wrangler, I think that's what it's called, or the other text editors that I recommended in the first class. So we're going to rename this file1.html. Okay, and then we're going to open this in our text editor. So I'm going to pull up my text editor. In this case, since I'm using Notepad++, I'm going to create, I'm just going to drag the file into here, and then I'm going to, I'm going to create a simple HTML file, In this case, we can actually just copy the HTML here. I'm going to do Control-C, and I'm going to paste it into my text file. I'm going to backspace over that carriage return, and I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to look at it in the browser. So I'm just going to open this again, and I'm going to double click it, and sure enough, we have skiing is fun in our browser. So I'm going to put that away, and then I'm going to continue with my exercise here. Then the next step 5 is to insert a simple CSS into the element. So let's see, insert simple CSS into the style element. So I can copy this CSS, so I'm going to copy this here and Control-C, and I'm going to find my style element, and I'm going to paste this into my style element. So I see I have a style element here. I'm just going to hit a carriage return, and I'm going to hit Control-V, and now I have CSS, internal CSS in my HTML file. I'm going to save that. I'm going to pull up my browser. Let's see, which browser was that? This one? Yeah. And I'm going to refresh it. And now I see that the HTML has been styled according to that cascading style sheet. Okay, so then the next step, page down, I'm going to insert a simple JavaScript into the head element. So you may copy the following. So I'm going to copy script all the way down to script and Control-C. It's going, and then I'm going to create a button after the P tag, and I can copy that. So first of all, I'm going to paste this script into my head element. So here's my head element. I'm going to hit a carriage return or enter, and I'm going to Control-V, and now I've got that script there, and everything looks good. And then it says that I need to create a button, so I'm going to copy this button text, Control-C, and I'm going to paste it after the P tag. So the P tag is here, starts here, ends here, so I'm going to put a carriage return, and I'm going to do Control-V, and there's my button. Now I'm going to save, and I'm going to refresh my browser and determine the impact. So if I refresh my browser, now I have a button, and it says skiing is fun, let's ski, but you should know, I'm going to click this button, and it's going to change the text to skiing is expensive. So hopefully you will be able to repeat this, do this exercise yourself. If you have any questions, please let me know. So when we think about all of that stuff, we think about the many, many things. Remember, I showed you this, the many, many things, all of these things the website can do, all of these elements, and then we actually did an exercise for each of these elements. And we think to ourselves, how are we going to manage all of that stuff? We could do it by hand on a file server. It's possible, but when you think about it, how are you going to manage all of this, the planning, the building, the maintaining, all of those elements, all the functions, excuse me, the CSS, the JavaScript, and the different ways that you can manage that? That's a lot of stuff to manage. The answer is use a content management system, a CMS. The content management system is involved in all cycles, all of the life cycles in digital marketing: the attract, delight, support, and understand. The CMS tool we'll use in this class is Weebly. It's not strictly a CMS tool, but I think it demonstrates enough of the functionality that for an introductory class it will be just fine. It's a free tool. It offers a lot of storage and CSS and JavaScript capabilities. So what is a content management system? Content management system is a software package, usually server-based, usually connected to a database that provides automation, optimization, productivity aids, publication schemes, user and role management, and security. The features, there are some primary features and nice-to-have features. The primary features, kind of the table stakes for a content management system, is you have to do content modeling, content aggregation, editorial workflow, usability, publication and output management, content control, permissions, state management and workflow, versioning, navigation, taxonomy, and search optimization. The nice-to-have functions would be multilingual support, personalization, analytics, form building, file management, image management, media management, URL optimization capabilities, multi-site capabilities, APIs, extensibility, and reporting and dashboards. So the system architecture looks kind of like this. We have a presentation layer, which interacts with our application layer, which interacts with our back office integration. There are a lot of parts here, but basically there's the part that the visitors can see, which is activated by applications, which might need to dip into other parts of our ecosystem that are not necessarily part of the website. So the website that we will use in class is Weebly, as I said before. You can go here to see my website, but basically it's got all of the tools. Remember we talked about all of that, all of the things that make up a website. This content management system actually manages that for us. So we could actually go to this website, and you can see the one that I made using this free tool. Nothing complicated about it. In fact, I just used the templates that they create, and I will, as part of your project, you will be required to make a website in Weebly that has probably 3 pages, that is optimized for SEO, that is connected to your marketing automation and your CRM, and that has analytics hooked up to it. So once you start your Weebly account, which by the way I will walk you through how to do all of that stuff that I just said. So I wouldn't recommend that you start it now, just kind of showing you this as a reference. Okay, that's it. So that was class 2. Hopefully you were able to take time to do the project that, the exercise that we talked about. I know that I went through it rather quickly. I expect that it'll take you twice as long, 3 times as long, or maybe you'll do it as fast as I did. And remember, don't get frustrated if it seems complicated to you or if it doesn't exactly go right. We will allow plenty of time in class to go over anything that you didn't understand or that didn't work for you, and we'll make it work for you. Also, we will have a separate class for each of those requirements for the projects that I just talked about, where I will actually walk you through how to do each of those things. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. Congratulations on having made it through your first online class. Hopefully you were able to complete the reading that went along with this class. If you have any questions about the reading or about anything that I went over in class, please feel free to email me, or we can just discuss it in our next in-class session, which will be class 3. So with that, thank you everybody. Please let me know if you have any questions. Have a great night.